Oh yeah, this exists.
This response video is gonna be different. If you came here expecting my usual rebuttals with a slice of attitude, you'll only get it here in small doses, if at all. This is my first video back from a hiatus, and that opening section was probably not the way to start it, but here we go. We'll be responding to the Sonic Forces review by Cleanprincegaming. Let's get right into it.
This is it. This is the 3D Sonic breaking point. A word keeps being thrown around when media outlets discuss Sonic Forces. Mediocre. The truth is, that is a filtered reaction to exactly what Sonic Forces is. A bad game.
Well, you got straight to the point, I'll give him that. My problem here is that you dislike Forces or think it is bad. Fine! Fair enough. But what you did just now was basically take a general consensus and tell us it's just to mask what you find Sonic Forces to be. A bad game. You're gonna take someone else's take on something and you're gonna tell them what it actually is because of what you think. I don't know where you got this idea from, my friend, but it's just not how it works. You don't decide what someone else means. They decide what they mean. And whether or not their word choice is poor or good is a different discussion. But you do not decide what their real opinion is. You cannot just say that saying it's mediocre is really just to mask that it's bad. Because there are people that think it is just average, mediocre. But if they use that term, suddenly they think it's bad, just because you said so. Do you mean something else? If you mean something else, please do elaborate. But as far as I know, that's all you're trying to say.
So to get started, let's take a look at the most basic principles of gameplay.
Fun.
I never saw any substantiation to the argument that Sonic games are press-right simulators that require next to nothing from the player. A walking simulator for the speedy. I always thought to myself, if you really believe that, go ahead and play Sonic 2 or even Sonic 06 and see how that theory treats you. Sonic Forces is Sega saying, you know what? Let's give this line of logic a shot. There is so much of Sonic Forces gameplay experience that is automated that it makes the Order 1886 look like the most interactive experience this generation. The first level of Forces can be beat with 20 button presses or less. That is not hyperbole. Sonic's Turbo Meter Air Dash made the game an exercise of boredom. Staying with the first stage, the famous Green Hill Zone, you're left with next to nothing to do other than to decide just how fast you want to finish the level. You could literally hold down the turbo button, which you're encouraged to do by the way, as it is treated as an overly abundant power-up, and fly your way through the entirety of the level.
Something like this is why I said this video is going to be different from my normal response videos, because I'm not just going to be hammering at points that I think are wrong. I'm going to also be looking at points that I think hold a lot of ground. Lost Valley's not a good stage at all. It's a good tutorial, sure. It teaches you everything you really need to do or need to know about Forces, which is fine. But a gold tutorial level should at least be able to have some bit of replayability, right? Like with Unleashed, it had an even simpler tutorial, right? But the way the ranking system worked, it made it hard to get an S rank on that. So, because of that, some might be inclined to go back and figure out how the S rank is going to be achieved. Here, the S rank just kind of happens. If you understand how the air boost works in Forces, you'll have no problem here. Now, I don't have a problem with the air boost itself. I think the air boost is a great innovation, and I hope if they do more boost games from here on out, which I'm sure they will at least try, that momentum-based air boost with that sort of triple jump mentality, I hope that comes back. But with better level design. And while I believe Forces is designed around this air boost, there's a lot to be improved, especially from the automation standpoint that's been brought up. We'll talk about that a little later. Now, I'll say this right now. Sonic Forces is my second favorite Sonic game. bar none. But it's not perfect. There's a lot that can be adjusted.
And as you get further into the game, instead of releasing the reins and removing some of the automation, the game just gives you more tools for you to continue to breeze right through it with. You quickly get your hands on what's called the Wispin, which is a flamethrower that literally allows you to hold the right trigger and never worry about a single enemy in front of you for entire stages. The extremely overpowered air targeting attack, or air dash, makes enemies trivial with or without the Wispin, and it gets to a point around the 1 hour mark where you begin to realize that what you're playing is essentially a QTE simulator, the scourge of the gaming community spread out across an entire experience.
Now again, Forces does have a lot of automation. Even in Luminous Forest especially. That stage is automation incarnate in the 3D sections. Even when you get to the second 3D section and you're able to go to these alternate paths, to get to them, you just do some homing attacks. And what happens after? Another automated part. I don't like Luminous Forest. The best thing I can say about Luminous Forest has nothing to do with Sonic. It's that the first little 3 segment reminds me of the amusement park in Nier Automata. It has nothing to do with Sonic. And that's the best thing I can say about the stage. Now, inversely, there is automation throughout all the stages. But aside from Luminous Forest and Lost Valley, it's often not necessary unless you count the grind rails. Then we'll have Eggate on our hands too. And Null Space, actually. However, the difference with these stages is Eggate has a lot more paths, right? It's still pretty linear, so it's not the best, but there are different ways to get through certain sections, and how fast you get through them can depend on your timing and your skill. Not by a huge margin, not as much as some other stages, but still. Null Space, however, is a perfect example of how a boost stage can be done. I'm hard pressed to find a boost stage better than Null Space, because Null Space is the epitome of openness in a Sonic game. I'm not sure if I've seen a stage more open within a boost game. There's so many places you can go, and there's even the Wispon that you can attach to it with the avatar, since it's a tag team stage. But I count it as a boost stage because Modern's still there. And this is important because not only do you have normal Null Space, which is very open, and due to the new air boost system, you can explore it in amazing ways. This is just emphasized by the fact that you can also use the avatar's abilities to have different, not only set paths that you can take, but also all these ways you can branch off from these set paths. And then you can also just fuck all of it and just do whatever you want. Null Space is, I'd say, probably the best stage in Sonic Forces, and it's the perfect example of how a stage can be done. There are good parts of Sonic Forces, and I like all of these things. So, QTE Simulator, I wouldn't say so. More automated than usual? Yeah, you might be right. But there's a skill curve there for the faster runs. The faster you want to go, there's more places you can go. There's more open areas. Network Terminal is another good example. It doesn't seem open at first. It's deceptively linear. But there's a lot of these areas you can just reach to simply with the air boost. And if you're good enough, you'll get on the grind rail. The grind rail's hard to get on. But if you're good enough, you can do it. And you have to be skilled to do this. Therefore, there is the skill curve there. Maybe not for a casual run. Sure. But generally, there's something there. Network Terminal probably has the best way of incorporating this new air boost. You want to know what it does? There's this section with this spinning wheel, right? And you can go through the spinning wheel, have the water come down and spin for you normally, go through the springs and the automation as you would. Or, if you're fast enough and skilled enough, you can get to the rightmost platform on the spinning wheel, jump up, and air boost. And if your timing is right, you can skip an entire portion of the stage. And it's very clear they designed it that way, because that is a later portion of the stage, and it just randomly lets you go back. Why would it do that? Unless you weren't supposed to go back at all. You're supposed to move forward. But only after a repeat run, and trying again and again to get more skilled at the game and have more knowledge of the level. Which is what a lot of the most praised Sonic games do. Generations, Colors, the classics. It's this core element, a lot of fans will say. And Forces has it. Not everywhere, but it still has it. So again, QTE simulator? I don't think so. And one more thing, on the topic of enemies. Oh no, the enemies don't do anything in a Sonic game. Gee, I wonder how long that's been a thing. Realize that most of the time, when non-boss enemies actually do something in a Sonic game, a lot of people complain, at least from my experience. Metropolis Zone in Sonic 2. I've never heard anyone who won't bitch about the enemy placement and how it is so frustrating to deal with those enemies in general. Sonic Heroes. People complain it takes too long to kill enemies. Shadow the Hedgehog. Too combat based. Sonic 06. Takes too long and it's too tedious to kill enemies. You see the pattern here? Then they go over the Sonic Unleashed, where it's simple. The enemies still do things, but it's simple. You can take them out very easily, and people were fine with the daytime sections, but the combat in the Werehog, that's what got people. Then you go to Colors where the enemies do nothing. Boom. Instant masterpiece. Then you go to Generations where the enemies do nothing. Boom. An even bigger masterpiece. You see the pattern here?
And to exacerbate the problem, we've got a Sonic game that seems to be self-aware, as they've thrown a bunch of actual QTEs into the experience just to drive the point home. And timing your button presses perfectly is simply the difference between a lower or higher arbitrary point total. And worse yet, they bring a game about speed to a dead stop, a grinding, jarring halt that feels completely out of place. And even the argument that a skilled player will be able to score higher across the board and will be in better control over the experience cannot be substantiated in the case of Forces. There is no skill curve. The one thing that separated Sonic games of yore from its competition, anyone can finish this game with little effort. It's a complete dumbing down of what Sonic should be, which is ironic given the themes that underlie the experience, an even worse turn of events for our beloved Blue Blur.
Uh-oh. On the subject of the QTEs, I agree with the first part. It could have been implemented into an actual QuickTime experience. What it ends up being instead is just wait. A QuickTime event should not be wait. It should be do this now, or you're gonna get fucked by something. You're gonna go to a lower path, you're gonna die, you're gonna fail something. If you look at something like pretty much any action game, Metal Gear Rising, Bayonetta, God of War, hell, if you look at Sonic Unleashed, that is how the QuickTime events are used. And while some QTEs at Unleashed are bullshit, they never feel like they halt the experience because you're supposed to do it quickly. You're supposed to do it as quick as you can before the time runs out. In Forces, you're waiting for a ring to go around a different ring so that your score can be higher. They could have implemented it as an actual QTE. I will say that. And the skill curve, I've already addressed, but as far as completing the game with little effort goes, gee, does that remind you of anything? No, not Colors, not Generations. The easier games of this franchise, acclaimed by many, including myself, to be the easier games. Maybe even the easiest. No? Alright.
There's a reason why there aren't any episodes of SpongeBob that go into great detail as to the depression that Squidward clearly suffers from and how he manages his thankless existence. You know why? Because that isn't what SpongeBob is about. That isn't what the show's fans watch it for. You'd be hard-pressed to find a Sonic fan who fell in love with the franchise due to its unflinching pessimism and dark, violent tales. Why? Because that isn't Sonic. Forget deep-cut canon and look at what becomes of a Sonic game when they attempt to turn it into a dark and gritty experience. That That is what happens.
Do I need to go over this one again?
Sonic Forces is nearly joyless. Eggman is teamed up with Infinite, a villain who despises everything good about the world, a villain with no comedic redemption, a villain that is just dark. You start the main experience of Forces by being told Sonic is dead. That's right, dead. After you watch him get the beat out of him, and are then informed that you are in a war-torn, post-apocalyptic world in which your ragtag team of rebels are fugitives that are being hunted, and oh wait, Sonic isn't dead. Sonic is holed up in Eggman's base being tortured. This is all thrown at you within the first hour of the experience, and it only gets darker from there. The worst part about this dark, pseudo-gritty take on Sonic is that its characters don't fit this environment. The voice acting doesn't, the dialogue doesn't. The characters almost seem like they're in a state of unintentional, confused shock throughout the entire game, as they pepper in weird jokes and not-so-funny one-liners, as their friends are being tortured, and when they do start to take things a bit more seriously, it comes off as weird and forced. Normally chipper, happy characters all behaving like they're at a funeral. It's off-putting and jarring.
If the story was really jarring for you, like in terms of tone, I don't know what to tell you, my friend. Because from what I have been hearing, in places that I have been, a lot of Sonic fans, if not most, have been waiting for a darker tone to the story. Not an extreme edgy tone, not the darkest it can be, but a darker tone. Something like Sonic Adventure 2, Sonic Unleashed, Sonic and the Black Knight, maybe even the first Sonic Adventure. All games that did this. You could even put the classics in there, depending on your perspective. A good friend told me that you could either look at it as Sonic is a hedgehog that goes fast and wants to save little animals from a dude that's putting them inside robots. Or Sonic is an anthropomorphic blue hedgehog who is able to run at speeds unachievable by any man. He's out to stop an evil scientist from using animals as robots to take over the world and destroy Mother Nature. Which one sounds darker? The second one, right? Well, guess what? It's the same story. It's the same Sonic 1, but someone described it differently. So, suddenly the story's dark now. But, didn't have to be. You're right, it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be completely dark. But, this is Sega saying, hey, we hear you. A lot of you want a darker story now. This is it. We want to give you this darker story. And that's what they did. These characters were able to stay lighthearted in some places. They were able to still take everything seriously, but also stay lighthearted in times. And that's what you need. You need lightheartedness to counteract the darkness. You need a good balance, and that is exactly what Forces achieved. Saying it's joyless is completely wrong. Because, especially in terms of Sonic, Sonic is nailed perfectly as a character. He always believes. He's always joyful. He always sees the hope. And this cheerful attitude gives other people hope. And even then, the characters, the way they interact is believable. Because in a dark story like this, what would a normal person do when they're scared, when they're afraid, when something bad is happening? They find a happy place. They tried to make joy out of the joyless. And that's what characters and Forces do. The end of I almost said Aquatic Base. Aqua Road shows this best. At the very end of Aqua Road, the last water slide segment, Knuckles will say to your avatar, well, look at you, rookie, having fun in the water? Amy will respond with a joking, what? Jealous you can't play on the slide, Knuckles? And Knuckles will respond kind of embarrassed. Well, this is no time to lose focus, that's all. Be sure to give it all you got, rookie. As he tries to get that leader image back. This creates a sense of, it's not hilarious. It's not supposed to be hilarious. It's supposed to show that these characters are real, and they can still find this happiness. They don't have to be all dark and brooding. This isn't Shadow the Hedgehog, okay? This is Sonic Forces. And the characters are believable because of this. And a lot of people like that. I know a lot of people like that. A lot of people have been asking for something like this. And most people that I talk to are very satisfied with the tone this is setting. Unless something like this working in another cartoony game, Jak 2. Jak 2 is a dark story, with the beginning being the torturing of Jak, pretty much, after they get sent from their normal time period. And the metalheads take over the city. There's a city filled with people that are malnourished and dying, being killed by their leaders with no mercy whatsoever. But characters still manage to make jabs at each other. They still manage to have some fun. Daxter especially. Daxter is the comic relief character. Everybody loves Daxter. Anyone I talk to about Jak and Daxter, like, holy shit, Daxter is fucking awesome. And you know why? Because he's that comic relief. He's the spark of the dark, pretty much. And he really helps the story balance with dark and lighthearted themes. Forces is able to do this. And whether or not you like that, that's up to you. But to say Forces is joyless, and then to claim that these don't fit at all, because the characters are normally joyful, seems kind of strange. Especially due to this. Let's keep going.
Sonic Forces' fight with mediocrity extends beyond just the swing and a miss that was its overarching tone. The game as a whole seems to be Sonic completely losing his identity, and not Sonic the character, but Sonic the franchise. This literally manifests itself with a new character creation system in which you can create all manner of furry creature to replace Sonic while he's out of commission. Sonic, the heart and soul of this franchise, the namesake, is missing throughout large chunks of this game. This avatar system isn't necessarily terrible in and of itself, and it's something that kids will certainly appreciate, but this loss of identity extends to the gameplay as well. Sonic Generations was a very good game. It wasn't a masterpiece, but it treated Sonic better than most modern Sonic games have. Sonic Forces is the team at Sega grasping at those same straws and only pulling out half as many. Gaming was graced with a great 2D Sonic game in 2017. Sonic Forces was never going to do what Mania did better than what Christian Whitehead and his team accomplished. So pick a team. Sonic Forces has quite a few 2D sections. They aren't good. The complex routes to the finish, the finely tuned mechanics that provide you with a sense of true control, not here. And Sonic feels much slower than he should throughout these sections in their entirety, but that's not the whole problem, it's simply just a part of it. The bigger picture here is that Sonic Forces can't decide what it wants to be, and its energy should have been focused in one direction instead of being torn in two. Sonic Forces is not a better game given its 2D sections, and had they focused solely on the 3D aspects of the experience, it's hard to imagine them not getting at least marginally better. If you're going to create a 3D Sonic game, create a 3D Sonic game. Now sure, there's an argument to be made that Odyssey has 2D segments as well, but here's the big difference. Most of those are entirely skippable. They last sometimes less than 30 seconds, and oh yeah, the rest of the game is great. They don't make you feel as though resources would have been better allocated elsewhere. Sonic Adventure wasn't bogged down by splitting its time 50-50 or even 60-40 with below average 2D Sonic levels. The game had an identity, for better or worse. A 3D gaming experience and a 2D one are two entirely different beasts both mechanically and aesthetically. Combining those two, while novel the first time, is not a great idea if one or the other aren't going to be worth their salt when compared to the competition.
While I agree that these games should focus on just 3D Sonic, this isn't just a Forces problem. It's a Sonic problem. What Sonic has been doing since 06, the game that quote-unquote killed the franchise to begin with, at least to some people, after that, they always put out games that would try this hybrid in some way. Secret Rings and Black Knight did it sparingly. Okay, Black Knight had like one, maybe two 2D levels, and the only 2D I could think of, and correct me if I'm wrong, the only 2D I can think of as secret rings is in the Eraser Jin fight. But it was used regardless. Sonic Unleashed is where this really started. Now, I love Sonic Unleashed. But Unleashed had a lot of 2D within its 3D sections. Obviously not with the Werehog, but in the Hedgehog stages. Which is what carried on into Colors. A game that presented itself as a new 3D Sonic experience, but ended up having even more 2D than Forces could ever dream of having. Then we got Generations, which had a 2D Sonic as a completely separate playstyle, so there was no need for 2D to even possibly be there for nostalgia or anything. But 2D was still in the modern Sonic sections, and worst of all, those 2D sections felt so disconnected from the 3D sections, through pacing and through general design. They felt weird. Yeah, you could tell it was still part of the level, but instead of feeling like a cohesive level with a cohesive pace and really feeling like you were just going through one stage, you felt like you were going through these random mini acts, and they just happened to have no loading screen, no indication you were going to Act 2, Act 3, or whatever. The only two stages I can really think of that didn't feel this way were Seaside Hill and Sky Sanctuary. That's 2 out of 9. And that's not even counting the extra little missions. As well as Classic Sonic just being full 2D. So, really, it's not just for Forces. And it even goes outside of the boost. Lost World had this problem too. Lost World had 2D sections within its 3D gameplay. And as far as I know, that was a big problem people had with Lost World too. Among other things, obviously. So, again, I don't know why you're just criticizing Forces for this. It's a valid criticism, but why just Forces? When it's a Sonic problem. And it's been a Sonic problem for a while. A long while. Doesn't make sense to me. Real quick on the topic of Odyssey, though. To support your point with that a little bit, Odyssey actually, it used these as like sort of set pieces. It wasn't a core game mechanic. There would be 2D sections in Odyssey for set pieces, maybe a moon or two. They were little bits, and again, like you said, some of them were skippable. So it wasn't a core. It wasn't a core thing. It wasn't a core focus. It was just put in there as a nice little sprinkle. As a nice little bit of diversity, if you will. Which is, you can't really say that for Sonic anymore. Because for the past 10 years, it's been putting 2D into its 3D games. It's ridiculous. Which is a problem I have with Forces, but it's also a problem I have with Generations, Colors, Unleashed, and just the Boost games in general. Now, I love Unleashed. It's my favorite game ever. Sonic Forces is my second favorite Sonic game. Not the biggest fan of Colors and Generations, but there was no need for 2D in any of these games. And we still got it. So again, a problem, not a Forces specific problem. To dispel this belief now, no, it's not the result of 4 years of work. I will completely admit here that we were pretty much lied to from what information we have. Sonic Forces was only in development for a year. As far as active development goes, like actually creating the game. It had a planning period of 2 years before that. The only thing in this game that was in development for 4 years was the Hedgehog engine. The actual game itself is in full production for about a year. Do you know what that means? When Forces was first revealed, okay, and we thought we were getting this game that they had really been working on, they really had nothing. They didn't have anything. Now, if information like translation problems or anything comes up, I'll correct it in a comment. Like, I'll pin the comment. But as far as we know, from a Nakamura interview, This game's only really been working for a year. Active development's only been for a year. And again, it might be a translation issue, I don't know. But as far as we know, we were fucking lied to. We were given a trailer for a game that probably wasn't even an alpha yet at the time. Think about that. Think about that. Hell, if we're going by an exact year, Sonic Forces was not even in development until a little while after it was revealed. You see that? It's ridiculous.
Again, other than the lighting maybe, about the way the game looks, from gameplay to cutscenes, feels inspired at all, and it all feels as though it could have used another year of development. This is driven home by the game's length and content. A game that lasts only about 5 or 6 hours in total. Now, mind you, for a game that isn't very good, that's a pretty nice length. But for a AAA Sonic experience, having it be the same length as certain walking simulators isn't exactly something to jot down in the pros section of a list. It does, however, completely explain its $40 price tag that may even be $10 too much. Sonic Forces wasn't priced as a premium experience. It doesn't have the content of a premium experience. It doesn't look like a premium experience, and all this is to say that it simply isn't one.
Because it is rushed. It is completely rushed. And I will fully admit to this. This is a sin that Sonic Forces does make. It's a rushed game. As far as we know, it's a rushed game. Now, I still think it looks great. I think the Hedgehog Engine 2 looks absolutely beautiful. Which not everyone will agree with, but some people will. Graphics is really subjective, like you've said. But it is rushed. And I say it could have used more development. It still looks great. Could have used more. As far as cutscenes go, I'd say a lot of the animation and presentation looks amazing in this game. I want to say that, especially in the cutscenes. Like, I've never seen cutscenes that felt more alive and action-packed, that really felt like there was real motion to it. I want to say the only real bad cutscene is right before they go into the Empire Fortress, because all the action is dimed down and slow, and it feels unnatural and staggering, and it's like it's like one of those like battle scenes they put into like a kid's show on the hub, and then it just doesn't end up working. It's like season 2 My Little Pony shit is what it is, and it just ends up looking jarring. Like, concept could have been cool. Didn't really do it so well. That's what that cutscene was. But as for the rest of them, especially in the fight of Silver versus Infinite, it's done really well. If you ask me, I think it's done pretty well. But it still could have used more development.
There's an old adage that it's a waste of time to bring up something or someone's problems unless you have a solution. And I think there are some very clear solutions to some of these very clear problems. The first is to make one game. Don't continue to try to make two. Make a 3D Sonic game that is nothing more than a 3D Sonic game to give you the ability to refine the mechanics used in that space and work through the best of what 3D Sonic can offer without having to split your resources. The second is to leave the player in control, even if it means you create a marginally more difficult experience. It's never a good thing when playing a game feels more like watching it. Does it mean slowing Sonic down? No, not if you design your 3D levels around that speed and open them up a bit more to create less momentary losses of player agency. This obviously is one area of change that is easier said than done, but should be helped by making the first change, and making some even more obvious changes like removing actual QTEs from the experience that again literally bring the speed of the game to a dead stop. The third is stop trying to make Sonic a game for cynical adults unless you're going to go all in on that reality. Sonic is appealing in its traditional state of joy-imbued popcorn stories and environments, and when you take that away from him, you begin to trudge into this weird territory of Family Guy-isms without the satire, adorable cartoons, and awkwardly depressing environments. Sonic wasn't created with being tortured in mind, so stop torturing him both literally and figuratively. Make a game for everyone with the tone fitting of the characters and art style of the experience. And finally, and maybe most importantly, make it work. Make it look like a modern game, make it run at frame rates that make sense for the game on every system you release it on, and put enough content into the experience to make it feel like consumers are getting a premium product. You don't have to go all Sonic Adventure and throw in fishing minigames or virtual pet collecting, but a standard 8 to 10 hour experience with maybe some entirely new post-game content that amps up the challenge in an enjoyable way, like a Mario Odyssey, would be much appreciated and go a long way to the sought-after positive critical reception that can make or break the sales of a game in today's modern web-enabled gaming space. 2017 has been a phenomenal year for games, and this November, the month Forces is launching in, is packed to the brim with releases that are absolutely stellar, including a direct competitor in the Game of the Year contender Mario Odyssey that launched 2 days prior to the month's beginning. But even if you had released Sonic Forces in 2016 or even 2015, it would not have mattered. The argument I keep seeing that Sonic Forces would be better received critically had it not launched when it did just doesn't hold water when there are so few redeeming qualities within this platformer, or whatever you want to classify it as. Sonic Forces feels like the rebuilding era of a sports franchise, a time where they still go out and compete, but they do so simply to bide their time, to continue to satiate fans, to bring in some money, waiting for draft picks and players to mature so that at some point they can be competitive again. But it's hard not to feel like the Sonic franchise hasn't been in rebuilding mode for the past 5 years. Sonic Mania was obviously a step in the right direction, but it was no consolation for the fans of Sonic's 3D outings. We've seen games like Sonic Colors, Generations, that managed to get what Forces gets so wrong, at least partially right. So we know that it can be done, that a Sonic experience can be enjoyable, even great, in a 3D setting. So why does every release feel like a regression of the formula now? At this point, it's hard not to feel like a Spurn lover, a Sonic fan that has been hurt one too many times, and I'm beginning to lose faith in Sega and the Blue Blur. Sonic Forces was not the redeeming experience the fan base was hoping for. Sonic Forces was another step in the wrong direction. I genuinely hope that Sega can turn this around. I just don't see it happening anytime soon.
And here's why I said this video is going to be different from my normal response video. You see, because I don't really completely disagree with him. At the end of the day, while I still have my criticisms and like things that I oppose, which I have already expressed, generally, he makes a good point. Sonic Forces does feel like a step back. Not from Generations or Colors, for me anyway, because I still think that it's better than Gens or Colors, but from Unleash, the very first boost outing. Every like you said, every game has felt like a step back. Not exactly from each other. It's like it hasn't been a stairway down. I would say Unleash was his highest point, and then it kind of went all the way down to Colors, and then it went higher again with Generations, and then it kind of went to the right with Forces. Like it didn't go up the stairs, it kind of just went through the wall and forgot the stairs were even there and just tried to go some different direction that wasn't even there. And again, I still love Forces, but Forces is weird. There's a lot of great ideas and a lot of things that are just great in general about Forces, but it's not what Sonic needs. It's what I love. It's what I really enjoyed. But I am not Sonic. I'm not the fan base. I'm not Sonic's reputation. I am nobody but Plymouth dumb-ass cat. So in the end, what I think doesn't really matter to everybody else. I can express it as much as I can, and I will. Because I enjoy that. And I think everyone has the right to. But in the end, they should focus on just making a 3D Sonic game. They should focus on fleshing it out completely. They should focus on modern Sonic. Not what modern Sonic could have been, used to be, or anything like that. And while I think bringing things back, like stage themes and stuff in Forces kind of worked because of the changes they made to the aesthetic, like the frozen over chemical plant, feeling like it was like a plant out at sea, and it felt really cool. And Green Hill having deserted areas and just this mechanical vibe, I really like that. But in general, they really do need to start looking towards the future and not reminiscing on the past. I liked what Forces did, but at the same time, I genuinely hope that this doesn't happen again. Sonic Forces is my second favorite Sonic game of all time. Sonic Forces could also very well spell the end for modern Sonic if the next game is just like it. They need to change some things. There's a lot of things they need to change. They need to sit down and just stop with Sonic. They need to think, how are they going to do it? What are they going to do? And then they need to do it. They need to flesh it out. They need to see what works. They need to flesh it out. And then we get the game. I'm willing to wait that long. Because I know that if they can do it right, that Sonic will come back. We won't be stuck with, oh, just classic forever. We won't be stuck with, oh, modern's always sucked. But most importantly, Sonic will be there. We can have Sonic. We can say Sonic is something that we love and enjoy. And just not have it automatically be a bad thing. I, again, love Forces. I cannot drive that point home more. But changes do need to be made. There's a survey I'll link in the description from Sega themselves about Sonic Forces. Now I want every single one of you who have made it to this part of the video to fill that out. Take some time to fill it out. 20 minutes at most. And give your honest thoughts and critiques to Sega about what they can do. Sonic Forces, good or bad, is meant to at least be a love letter. They really tried with the fan service here. They really showed us they cared. And it shows even more. The fact that they even bothered to make a survey for us to tell them, hey, how did we do? Did we do good? Did we do bad? What can we improve? What games have you liked before? How could we evolve things to make Sonic better in the future? What was wrong with Forces? What was right with Forces? What do you think can stay? What do you think can go? Basically, they're asking us directly what we want, instead of just seeing what we want and not seeing everything. And I feel this is a good opportunity to get Sonic going. Sonic fan or non-Sonic fan, whoever's watching this, somehow made it through this huge video. I encourage you to go and check back on that survey and really give Sega your thoughts. And I feel like that's going to be really important. And if Cleanprincegaming sees this, and he didn't know about the survey before, please, give your discrepancies to Sega. I do legitimately want you to give them to them. I want Sega to understand how diverse this community is, and how a bunch of different people want a bunch of different things. And Forces, I think, is prime time for that. Because I've never seen a Sonic game so mixed with everyone. It really does feel like we need to be able to talk to Sega, and they're giving us this chance to opening up. So please, go fill out that survey. In general, I had points I disagree with here. I had points I agree with here. I don't think they should get rid of the tone. I think this tone is perfect. I do think they should focus on 3D Sonic as a whole and really fleshing out the experience. The way I describe it, if they were to take the best from Unleashed and the best parts of Forces, make one game with no 2D sections, just modern Sonic in full 3D, and and take the best from Unleashed and Forces. And I think we could have a truly stellar title. But that's just me. What do you guys think? Does anyone want to rage at me for even making this? Whatever your response might be, I want to know. I want you to tell me in the comments. And I want you to really keep this discussion going, I guess. That's it. I just wanted to make this because I felt like I had to. Because I didn't give you guys a video in a while. And after seeing this essay, I felt this was how I'd get back into it. Response is how I started. That's how I'm going to get back. And yeah, that's about all I have to say. Thank you so much for watching my dumb fucking 40-minute video up to this point. I really appreciate it. As always, do not go bashing on the original video if you're all on my side or whatever, because I never approve of that. It's dumb. You shouldn't be doing that. Don't go bash on the creator, don't go bash on the video, don't bomb it. Just be civil. If you want, make responses of your own, but again, be civil, be mature. Because at the end of the day, it's just, we're a community. We don't have to always be at each other's throats. We can have disagreements, which is what this is. But the more and more I look through the Sonic community, I see more anger and hate, and everyone going neck and neck. I don't like it. It seems hurtful. And I'm new to the Sonic community, and I had no idea this is what I was getting into. While I still love Sonic, just in general, this is sad to see. And I want 2018 onward to be a time where Sonic can really improve, where you can really look forward. So, fill out that survey. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And if you would rather a live discussion, I have a Discord server. Shameless self-advertisement. Anyway, that's about it. My name's Plymouth. Have a good one.
Now I'm 7 cigarettes away from nothing to my name.